In the time that I've been involved with the Green Party, one of the things that's most inspired me about Green councillors and activists, the thing that has made us most stand out from all the other parties, is our ability to see connections. Connections between local, national and international issues, connections between environmental, social and economic issues, connections between corporate power, neoliberal trade policies and poverty, both here and abroad. One area where Greens are making those connections, where the connections between environmental and social issues from the local to global become clear, is in the erosion of local services and communities. Greens across the country have been working tirelessly to protect local shops and services, to stand up to large multinationals and supermarkets. Local campaigns against the overdominance of supermarkets have the odds stacked against them. Residents and councillors cannot afford the legal representatives and consultants that the supermarkets often use to fight their case. And planning laws only allow us to object on certain grounds. These grounds do include important points such as traffic implications and building design, but the damage to local communities and the impact on people around the world are simply ignored by the planning process. The fact that supermarkets leak money out of the local economy and into the coffers of distant corporate headquarters is ignored. The fact that each supermarket leads to an average loss of 270 local jobs is ignored. The fact that supermarkets force down prices paid to farmers, not just here in the UK, but in some of the poorest countries in the world, is ignored. The fact that supermarkets promote intensive farming methods that create animal suffering on a huge scale is ignored. And of course, the impact on the environment are also ignored. The increasing power of supermarkets is something we can resist. In Norwich, we've been fighting proposals for a Tesco store on the Unthank Road for nearly 4 years. And as in many other parts of the country, we are battling as much to protect the safety of people walking and cycling through the area as we are to save the local shops and services. We've beaten Tesco on the council at the Planning Applications Committee, not just once or twice, not just 3 times, but on 4 separate occasions Tesco applications have been defeated. And we're now preparing to help the council defend its case at appeal and defeat Tesco for a 5th and final time. The government is now being offered advice on these public service issues by Charles Clarke, who I'm challenging in Norwich South at the next general election. And if the government were to take Charles Clarke's advice, we would see even more social exclusion and even more privatisation when it comes to public services. In July, Clarke produced a report for an accountancy firm, KPMG, calling for more user charging in the health service and education system. He claims it would be for what he calls non-core services, but I don't regard education for under 5s and over 16s or out-of-hours GP visits as optional or unimportant. And I challenge Charles Clarke to tell any parent in Norwich South that childcare and healthcare are not core services. A system of more user charging would mean more inequality in our society. It would mean a 2-tier system. It would mean poorer people could not afford the health and education care that they need. Greens know that we need a progressive attitude to health, ensuring that services are free at the point of delivery. But this government has mortgaged our future to private finance initiatives, drawing money away from the frontline services and reducing accountability. And of course, we cannot afford to fund much better public services if we are wasting money on unnecessary and expensive ventures like ID cards, nuclear weapons, and illegal wars. Charles Clarke has been in the news in recent days for his comments that the Labour Party is facing disaster at the next general election. He says that the Labour Party needs to change direction. Well, I say that the government does need to change direction, but not in the one that he has in mind. Journalists have been asking me why I think that Mr. Clarke is so personally concerned about the next general election. And could it be because the Green Party finished in first place across his constituency in the May local elections? And if Mr. Clarke wants to fight the next election on the future of public services, then that is fine with me. As Caroline said on Saturday, Labour's refusal to introduce a windfall tax on oil companies is a spineless betrayal of the poor. But at a local level, Green councillors are already starting to work to abolish fuel poverty. In November 2006, Green Party councillor Andy Cooper drew up proposals for a scheme that would provide free cavity wall insulation to every householder in Kirklees. He could see that the government schemes were failing because they restricted the provision of insulation to pensioners and people on benefits. Leaving many thousands of families in fuel poverty, he could see that instead of a scheme forcing people to apply and fill in forms, instead of a scattergun approach where contractors go out to one house at a time, leaving properties either side without insulation, a universal scheme for everyone would be more efficient, faster and fairer. So Andy took action. He asked for costings to be drawn up by the council officers, and a proposal was put to last year's budget council meeting, where it was passed. And since then, more than 11,000 homes in Kirklees have received free insulation, more than in the whole of Greater London during that same period. £10 million of investment has been levered in from energy companies as part of their limited obligations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions on behalf of their customers. As a result, the average family heating bill will be reduced by around £150 per year. And this will mean that around £5 million will be going back into the local economy and not boosting the profits of the energy companies. And finally, nearly 200 jobs are going to be created in Kirklees, and a new training centre for cavity wall installers is already up and running. Now imagine this project being scaled up to a national level with real worthwhile jobs being created all over the country. People given work helping other people, helping them to save money and save energy. I will never tire of praising this initiative, and I know that Greens across the country have been inspired to follow the lead of Kirklees, and that earlier this year the free insulation scheme was a key pledge in the London elections. Everyone needs a warm, dry home, and every town needs an Andy Cooper. Caroline described on Saturday how President Roosevelt responded to the Great Depression of the 1930s. A coalition of Green campaigners, including Caroline, are now promoting a Green New Deal for investment in the infrastructure we need to tackle the problems of the 21st century. Now compare Roosevelt's political leadership with the cowardice of the Labour government that knows all about the new infrastructure that our country needs and knows that we are facing economic problems but can't change its neoliberal view of what it's possible to do about it. The overlapping events of the credit crunch, of soaring oil prices and the costs of climate change threaten to develop into a crisis of a severity not seen since the Great Depression and with potentially devastating consequences. And the solution, as Greens have realised, is investment in the things that our country needs now. Renewable energy, energy-saving methods, local food production, and the thousands of new green-collar jobs that these positive measures will create. Caroline is right that the Green New Deal is the best idea in British politics today, and I agree that it should be at the heart of our policy development. Green councillors around the country are securing investment in energy efficiency and renewable energy measures. Greens are pushing councils to take action to reduce carbon emissions, to take annual reductions seriously and put in place effective strategies to deal with that. But, and I'll say it again, to provide the positive answers that the Green New Deal would provide, we need Greens in Westminster.